So I am here with my new friend, Jeff Power, and a really cool story about what God is doing in his life and in his community. And so, Jeff, I wonder if you could talk about becoming a pastor and your background, Campus Crusade, and then seminary at Trinity?
Trinity Seminary, Chicago area.
Okay, and then talk about coming out to Denver and the vision and what the church was all about there.
I'll turn off my phone while we do. Gosh, that was a bunch of years ago. Came out from the Chicagoland area. We were part of Willow Creek. Knew some of the leadership there, and launched a church now 16, 17 years ago.
In where?
In the Broomfield area.
Which is where?
Right between Denver and Boulder. And just started with a bang and energy and inviting people, and then in a middle school and set up and tear down. And back at the beginning we had dramas back before it was cheap to do video and music, and added video and stuff as time went by. Long story short, I think we kept feeling like we were trying to be two things that weren't compatible. We were trying to be very intimate, very authentic, kind of moving carefully and slowly the way I believed my marriage should work and my relationship with my kids. At the same time, we were trying to be energetic and bringing a ton of people and everybody inviting and awesome stuff out in the community. And
so that's how you make a church work, right?
Yeah. Because if you agree, once you agree that gathering people together to have spiritual inspiration and packing that room and having more and more and seeing that energy grow, once you agree to that, you got to commit to that. But we also agreed that everything should still feel very close, very warm, very intimate. Anyway, so we probably slit our own throat in the process.
Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, you're trying to do two things that you just can't do.
They're not really compatible.
Where I'm at, I don't think they're compatible. I just found in my own life because to be a really good husband means I got to spend just plenty of time relaxed with Mary. I can't be running all around the community because I have a tendency to do that, run all around and meet all these people. I'm naturally an extrovert, and I just said no. I'm just going to limit that. And I was raising 4 kids, and so I made the choices I'm glad I made, but those same choices really short-circuited the other piece that I wanted to be, which was energetic and blah, 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 blah. So for whatever combination of reasons, the energetic side didn't work for us. We'd grow as a church to 200, 250, 260 people, but it wasn't quite what they wanted, and so certain people would leave because they wanted more energy or a bigger thing, and we weren't that. And so then it go back down to 100, 120, and then we'd oscillate back and forth. And at the end of about a dozen years, all of us in leadership were just exhausted at that point. We didn't know exactly what to do. When we met for our annual retreat, and we'd been sort of individually thinking it for a while, and we said, we think we've run our course. We think after 12 years, we're done.
Yeah.
So we brought in other pastors of other churches in the area to our little group that met on Sundays, and said, hey, we're going to disband this, but we want to invite everybody to God's doing plenty of stuff around the area, so let's feed what else is going on. So that was 4.5, almost 5 years ago. Really painful. Felt like the absolute loss of a dream. But at least fast forward to now, a bunch of those people who were part of that culture, that family, that household that we called Summit View, kind of independently out there with other believers in the area, and everybody's saying, we want something a little different. Now, the last year or two, latched on the idea of Simple Church, and now we're trying to get a few of these households together and start talking about it, and at least launch the beginning of one that might migrate into several others and several others down the road. So we're at the first stages of it, so
yeah.
we don't know where it'll go yet.
You thought this church was done, and in one sense it was, but in another sense, not exactly, because these people were still community. They still met together, and many of them.
Yeah, and you've heard a couple people tell the story of another pastor friend in the area who was chatting with one of our friends and said, it feels to me like some of you is still a church, you just haven't been meeting.
Yeah.
And and the new thing we're trying to launch now has a bunch of people from different former box churches, or what I call face forward churches, that closed their doors similarly because it was starting to feel like a performance and impersonal to them instead of warm and personal. And so, for whatever combination of reasons, now several things have migrated together, and something new is being birthed from a variety of experiences and people's background. And we're just excited to see where it goes.
So you invited me up last Tuesday night, just a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Talk about that meeting. What did you see happening? What did you hear?
Well, since you promised us $500,000 in startup capital, we thought it'd be great to have you come.
Absolutely.
Because that's what every church plant needs.
That's right.
$500,000 in startup capital.
Yeah.
No, we hooked up with your group through a whole different thing at one of your meetings down at DCC probably a year and a half ago, one of your gatherings of leaders. I was there representing our missions organization that works in Africa, and loved what I heard, and you and I chatted 2 minutes, and 3 minutes after that was over, and I just kept you in mind and kept this group in mind, and we knew Hobby and Robbie and some other folks who were part of it. And so once we had a nucleus of people that said they really wanted something very organic, very simple, very warm, that didn't get away from that, it's like, well, call John, join us, and you guys have been down this road and watched a bunch of these and been a midwife to a bunch of these things, so help guide us in our next few steps. It's been a great start.
So Tuesday we talked about the idea of every home a church, and at one point in the meeting went around, and there were 8 households who began to embrace that idea. So we could say that we started 8 churches. A lot of them were already going. But we identified 8 churches already in the network.
Yeah, the real possibility of people seeing their homes as a base on their block for people encountering God and each other.
And we started with Sachet. We taught that little principle of
Went around the
checking
circle, and people just checking in and briefly sharing what they're up to and what's going on in their heart.
And their assignment I gave them was, because we'll
Daily
meet again,
sachet for 2 weeks.
as close to every day as possible in your household.
Meeting again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Talk about what it felt like Tuesday night. What emotions were going on in your heart and Mary's heart as you watched what's emerging there?
I would say peace. A sense that this fits, it's right. It's neither passive nor forced. It's like right in the sweet spot between the two. It just matches what we sense God's been up to in a bunch of our lives and values He's been gently and sometimes forcibly building into our lives, and that we want to see expressed in a group of people, and it just felt like that. Yeah, we're on the right track. This feels like, even back in the early days of when we said we wanted to be a body of Jesus, back with the old thing, it feels like that again, and now we say, well, we want to avoid some of the choices we made back then that took it away from that.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Jeff.
It's great to be here.